City living has its advantages, but more residents usually means more pollution, more rats, and more trash. The problem is worse in some cities than in others. I ranked the dirtiest cities in America following one of the trashiest times of the year, the winter holiday season. We compared over 150 of the biggest US cities across 4 categories, including pollution, living conditions, infrastructure, and consumer satisfaction. Depending on where you live, you may want to buy some air fresheners, mouse traps, or a can of Raid. The good, the bad, and the dirty. Space City lands at the top of our rankings as America's dirtiest city. It claims the title from Newark, New Jersey. Among the 152 cities we ranked, Space City is the 3rd most polluted. In fact, a recent study found that the city's petrochemical facilities severely violate EPA safety guidelines. Our data supports those findings. Houston ranks 3rd worst in greenhouse gas emissions from large industrial facilities. The city has the biggest cockroach problem too, according to the Census Bureau. Despite such conditions, Houstonians are still more satisfied with the cleanliness of their city than the residents of 33 other big cities, including Amarillo, ranking 33, and Fort Worth, ranking 32. Salt life equals the good life. Coastal doesn't necessarily equate with clean, but cities close to water, particularly in California, Virginia, and North Carolina, dominate the 10 cleanest spots in our ranking. Virginia Beach, Virginia outshines all other cities in our ranking. The city's stellar scorecard includes lack of pollution ranking 149 and above average living conditions ranking 112. That comes highly praised by locals ranking in consumer satisfaction. Farther inland cities like Fremont, California, ranking 148, and Winston-Salem, North Carolina, ranking 146. At 149, Des Moines is the lone exception representing the heartland, thanks to fantastic scores across the board, especially in living conditions. All choked up. Los Angeles, 15th dirtiest, is often characterized as the poster child of pollution. However, the Inland Empire region, once an orange paradise and now a sea of warehouses east of LA, has consistently ranked worst for air quality in the nation. This trend bears out in our own study. The biggest cities making up Inland Empire, such as San Bernardino, Riverside, and Ontario, all tied for the poorest median air quality. It's a pretty low bar to cross when one's own residents already consider their city the armpit of California. But San Bernardino managed to be the 3rd dirtiest this year. This negative sentiment among locals also bears out in our ranking. San Bernardino has the most dissatisfied residents when it comes to the cleanliness of their city. Other cities in the region fared better overall, but some weren't far off in consumer satisfaction. The Southwest water crisis is a double whammy. Both quantity and quality are in decline. A decades-long drought, climate change, and overconsumption have not only zapped the Southwest's water supply, but they also have exacerbated drinking water contamination. Except for Salt Lake City, every Southwest city we ranked violated the Safe Drinking Water Act at least once in 2020, the year of the most recent EPA data. Lack of access to clean water, let alone water itself, can drastically reduce quality of life. But the Southwest's cleanliness problem extends beyond unsafe drinking water. Every city in this region landed in the worst half of our ranking. Las Vegas is the dirtiest among them at 19, while Chandler, Arizona, is the cleanest at 71. The butt of all dirty jokes, Ohio, cigarette butts are the most littered item across the globe, and in some of the Buckeye State's biggest cities, it's one of the filthiest problems. 5 out of the 6 Ohio cities we ranked occupy the top 6 spots of our share of smokers metric. Cleveland has the highest percentage, 29.1%, among the 6 Ohio cities. while Columbus, one of the cleanest cities overall at number 137, has the lowest at 22.1%. That's not to say every smoker in Ohio litters, but cigarette butts are a common sight across the state, despite strict litter laws. Thankfully, cities like Cleveland have introduced programs to help residents kick their littering habit. Our data suggests, however, that the state needs better programs to help residents kick their smoking habit too. Trash, smog, and pests are unsightly, but many of us don't consider the deeper impact of filth and our own filthy habits on our lives. We turn to a panel of urban planning and sanitation experts to help us better understand those effects and how to improve our cities. In what ways does a dirty city directly affect its citizens? What steps can cities take to achieve a cleaner environment and better air quality? Cleanliness isn't cheap. How can local governments balance their budgets while spending the necessary funds to keep their cities clean? What lessons can we learn from some of the world's cleanest big cities like Copenhagen and Singapore? For each of the 200 biggest US cities, we gathered publicly available data on the factors listed in the table below. We then grouped those factors into 4 categories: pollution, living conditions, infrastructure, and consumer satisfaction. Next, we calculated weighted scores for each city in each category. Finally, we averaged the scores for each city across all categories. We eliminated 48 cities lacking sufficient data for a fair comparison, resulting in a final sample size of 152 cities. The city that earned the highest average score was ranked dirtiest number 1, while the city with the lowest was ranked cleanest number 152. Note, the cleanest among individual factors may not be number 152 due to ties. Why this study matters. During the pandemic, lockdowns helped clean our air and water, but old habits die hard. Nearly 3 years later, pollution is worse in many urban areas, and US emissions are back up. In many cities, residents also deal with pests, litter, and even bad waste management services. These problems are unsightly, but they're more harmful than we might realize. Air pollution, for instance, worsens lung cancer and increases our chances of heart disease and stroke. Dealing with dirt and grime can be a huge drain on municipal budgets too. San Francisco, for example, spent $72.5 million in 2019 to clean its streets, up from $46 million in 2017. Where does all that money come from? You, the taxpayer. Here's the bottom line. Dirty cities aren't just an eyesore, they also damage our bodies and our wallets. As spring cleaning season arrives, it's a good time to check on our dirty habits and make positive changes for a healthier life and a more beautiful city to enjoy.